I need to learn pixel art fast, so I watched the only pixel art guide you need, and 15 minutes later made this. Okay, dang. I really wanted my game to have pixel art, but I wanted stuff that looks like this. And I'm beginning to think it probably takes longer than 15 minutes and one tutorial. Like, I think it'd take me years to get this good. But I don't have years. I barely have a week. I'm new to game dev. Just getting the game to open feels like a win right now. I gotta work on that. But I also need to know if I'm even capable of making pixel art for my pixel art game. So I'm giving myself to the end of the work week. And it's already Tuesday. For some reason, I genuinely think I can pull it off. I don't know where that confidence is coming from. Certainly not my previous work. So I'll start simple and make something harder each day. The problem is when it's your own art, it's kind of impossible to tell whether it's good or not. So luckily my wife is an art teacher, so she's agreed to grade each piece brutally. Just like school, I'm aiming for C's. A pass is a pass, but don't tell her I would really like a B or a 2. So, day 1. Today, I'm starting with objects because look at this. It's supposed to be a bottle. I don't know if that's obvious. It's actually really important that I can make pixel art drinks because the whole game is about running a bar for bees to get them buzzed so that they go home and make more bees. Increase the bee population and such. It's called population buzzed. There will potentially be hundreds of drinks in this game. So if I can't get good at making pixel art drinks, I don't really have a game. So I watched this video by Watt on the basics of how to use Sprite because today is the first time I've ever opened this piece of software and I clearly have no idea what I'm doing. He goes over the basic tools and gives me the confidence to get going. Too much confidence. Because I have apparently bitten off a little more than I can chew. The blind faith I had in myself is evaporating quickly because for some unknown reason, I decided that the first drink I would attempt would be a glass of beer. Here's my reference image, and I'll let you spot the problem here because I am clearly too dumb to see it for myself. Oh, I'm just gonna get started with a brand new art medium with software I've never used. My art experience itself is lacking, and I figure I'll start with a glass of beer. Not a bottle. Not a can. A big ol' see-through glass of beer. And suddenly I'm expected to have expert level knowledge on how to portray refraction through pixel art. Cool. Nope, no biggie. Give me 20 minutes. Using all 15 minutes of prior experience, I whip up this little number. I mean, it looks like beer, which is wild. For my first real piece of pixel art, I'm actually pretty impressed with this, but it's not very polished. It's lacking the finesse that I would expect to see of a quality pixel art game asset. And I don't feel comfortable moving on to the harder stuff looking at this. It's just not good enough, is what I'm saying. I can't continue with this art challenge until I get better, because tomorrow I'm gonna create some UI elements. Thursday, I'll make an actual character. And on Friday, I wanna create a whole izakaya bar scene. And there's no shot I can do any of that until I nail down a basic drink. No pressure. This is a really easy challenge. I wasn't gonna submit this one to my wife for grading, but she saw it anyway and actually gave it a C. She said it's all right for a quick, passing graphic, hence the C. But if it's gonna be a main asset, then it would need a little bit more work. Honestly, that feels generous, but hey, it's a pass, but I can do better. And to do better, I must do worse. Let's lower the bar a little. Let's try something that isn't as difficult. Let's do a sake ceramic bottle and cup. Something solid. So I spent some time watching some videos by Hannah Pix that go over some things like basic shading and line work. I can highly recommend her videos. They built up my absolutely crushed confidence levels to something a bit more reasonable, and back to it I get. Hopefully I can pull this off and create a sake bottle I'm happy with so that I don't have to cancel my entire game. I started off with the basic shapes, added some shading, hated that. So I swapped out the color palette, didn't hate that. Tried out this blur effect, which was actually kind of sick, but not the vibe I'm going for. Added some rope and a logo, then worked on a little cup and finished it all off, which took about 40 minutes all up. I don't really know about the outline. I kind of prefer the version without, but I guess it depends on the actual art style I end up going for in my game. But I'm gonna say it, this is kind of banging, and I know bangers. I don't mind this. It could be better, but man, it could be so much worse. Like, this is possible in my eyes. I'm okay with putting this in my game and pixel art of this quality. I will show this one to my wife, but at this point, this is all I have, and I'm not 100% convinced that this was not a fluke, so I wanted to make one more drink, and I couldn't get the idea out of my head that I wanted to make the Gaijin Killer a strong zero. Now, this is not the kind of drink that you would actually get in a bar in Japan. It's more of a convenience store drink, but this is my game, so I make up the rules. Also, I'm just practicing art, okay? It doesn't have to be lore accurate right now, but here's the reference image, and my ego is all inflated because of how well the last one turned out. Other than the rope part, I couldn't figure out how to make that look good. It's better without the outline, but anyway, this time I started with some basic outlining to get the shape right. Realized I didn't want to use this palette because I want my can to be can colored, not blue. So I swapped it out for a different one, and now we're talking. I don't know about you, but this shading is looking satisfying. I'm gonna knock this one out of the park after I spend like half the time fixing the shape because I don't know, man, can shapes. Why are they so hard? After that, I draw the rest of the owl. I don't know, there's not much to say. I just redid things until I was happy with them. And let me be so real with you right now. This thing slaps for me personally. And I don't care if it can be better. That will come with time and practice. But from my perspective, the progress in one day is about as much as I could possibly hope for. I'm happy with this, but pairing these two together, what does my wife think? Collectively, these drinks got a B. She said they're a big step up. She said, like they were done by a different person. And they weren't. They were just done by a guy with like an hour extra experience, which is a pretty huge win for day one. This whole thing might actually be possible. Day two. Okay, so I can make a pixel art drink or two. That's very important. But if you've seen my first video about this game, you would know that the only thing more important than the drinks is the bars, the progress bars, not like the bars, though that's also important. In fact, that's like the ultimate goal. That's what I'll be doing on Friday. But for now, progress bars, which is a whole lot more difficult than you would think. Because yes, the first thing I had to do was figure out how to make wood. That was surprisingly hard. But once I stumbled upon something I was happy with, we had this little progress bar box in no time. Some time. Not heaps of time. A little bit of time. But I don't just want a basic gold colored bar that fills up like I showcased in my last video, because my ambition knows no bounds. No, in this case, I want the bar to fill up with beer. So I tried out the gradient tool and made like a bunch of gradients within gradients. Ended up with this. And at this point, I'm like 40 minutes in. I mean, there's more time left in my day. So I get a little bit more ambitious. I want it to be filled up like it's being poured in with foam on top and everything. So we're doing animation, and now I've got to figure out how to do that. And I mean, it ended up looking incredible. One of the most satisfying things I've made, but to get there, however I figured out how to do it is probably, most definitely, 100% not the actual best or even good way to do it. Because brother, this was tedious. I would duplicate the beer layer, hide the original, delete the old duplicated frames leading up to the current frame, squeeze the layer down to the correct size, use the jumble tool to jumble up the layer and add a bit of motion, merge the layer down into the previous animated frames I'd already done, create a new frame and do it all over again, and again, and again, and again, again. Then when I get to the end, add a little bit more jumble while fading it all out, go back through and fill in any missing pixels caused by the jumbler, and then when I feel like it's finally all done, hand animate one tiny little bubble that goes up at the end. But try to wing it for some reason with no consistent motion over time. So when it plays back, it just feels weird and kind of like jumps around the place a little bit. So instead of deleting it and going back and just doing it properly, like a good, normal person, instead, I try to delete, redo, and add individual frames to try to fix the problem areas and inevitably end up with something that I consider good enough. And I mean, it looks sick. As a whole, I'm happy with this. But through this whole experience, I've realized something devastating about this piece. But first, check it out. I mean, I'm pretty happy with that. It looks so satisfying. But in the end, it doesn't even matter because I don't think I'm actually going to use this graphic at all, and I'll explain that. But I do want to know what my wife thinks. Okay, so she really liked this one. She said it's super satisfying and she gave it an A. A what? That's crazy. I mean, she's glazing here. I think she likes me, but I'll take an A. There's just one issue. I highly doubt I'm actually going to use sprites for the progress bars in my game. I'm pretty sure I want more control over them than that. Ideally, I'll work out some pixel-based physics simulation or something so that it's actually dynamic with the input. I'm not sure, but in the end, this ended up being good practice. Potentially not even usable, but still very cool. And you know, at this point, I'm definitely getting more comfortable with pixel art, and I'm starting to think that my goal to create a huge Japanese izakaya bar scene on Friday might actually be possible. Not yet, obviously. There's limitations to what I can do, but I actually am surprising myself with these little pixels that I'm putting down. There is one thing though that I've been shying away from. And I don't know if you've caught it yet, but every single thing I've made so far have just been objects or UI or whatever, but I haven't made anything with a face. No character elements. And honestly, it's a huge part of why I wanted the game to be about bees rather than people, because while my art experience is not very large, my character art experience is practically non-existent. I've got all the confidence to pull off stuff, but deep down I know that if I want my Japanese izakaya scene to really slap, it's gonna need a bartender. So that means tomorrow I'm gonna have to rip that band-aid off and design an actual character. Welcome to Thursday, and today is a disaster waiting to happen. I can already feel it. I don't have my usual chipper, can-do attitude that I'm known and loved for. I'm a bit worried, panicked, spooked about what I'll be able to pull off, because I don't think it's gonna be great. The large, menacing elephant in the room that I don't want to address, the bartender, the playable character. That's the challenge today. And I don't know if you ever heard the advice, eat the frog. It suggests doing the hardest thing first in your day so that the rest of the day comes easy. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna start with a simple NPC, a bee. A little, tiny, innocent bee. Surely that will be less terrifying. I mean, bees can still be a little scary, but I'll just do what I usually do and pretend I'm completely unbothered when it's alarmingly up in my grill. I'll play it cool. The bees aren't supposed to be too detailed, but they are still characters. It should be the perfect practice for designing an actual bartender, which won't be bees. The bees just visit the bar. The bartenders though, those are the playable characters with different looks, stats, and skills and stuff. They're very important, and I'm definitely not ready for that. And I'll honestly never be ready if I can't even make an NPC bee, so. B. Okay, by now we should be getting the hang of this. Step 1, basic shapes. Step 2, ignore the wings, legs, arms, and get straight to coloring. This is fine. Why would this be an issue? What could possibly go wrong? Everything. Everything went wrong. What is this? I don't know. I really don't. It's a glass, and it's supposed to be tiny bee lips, I guess, sipping from the glass. And here are his little bee hands, holding it. I mean, this is a disaster. Let's pause that issue and make a new one by adding some legs. They're legs. Let's try the wings. And I'll tell you right now, I don't know. I don't know how to wings. For whatever reason, no matter what I tried, I could not get these wings to look right. And I tried a lot. In the end, I came up with these and I guess called them good enough. I tried to fix up some other monstrosities, and after a long, epic battle with tiny limbs and a stupid little glass, I fear I may have lost. In the biz, we call this giving up. Now, I don't mean that literally. I mean, I do. I don't mean it permanently. It's cute, but it's just a bit of a mess. The wings are weird, but the whole hand situation with the drink here is just, it's committing art crimes. And I don't know how to fix it. I've been defeated by a bee and his tiny little arms. I don't think I'm ready for designing a bartender, let alone a whole entire scene, if I can't even make a bee I'm happy with. I mean, the whole game is bees. I collapse into the couch, muttering something about being bested by bees, and I wallow. You know, sometimes, not even creatively, just in life, the right antidote is a bit of wallowing. Not too much. Don't overindulge, you know, it's quite rich. But a couple of hours later, I return, a little bee battered, and not necessarily ready to conquer, but maybe just loiter for a bit. Maybe with a bit of jostling, I can fix up this bee of a thing. Man, this was hard. I realized that no matter what, I cannot get these hands to look right in front of the brown stripes. So the stripes have to move. I don't know. This is what I ended up with, and at this point, I don't even know what I'm looking at. I can't objectively tell whether this is good or the worst thing ever. It's okay, I guess. What does my wife give it? She gave it a B. A B? Oh dang. I have survived to live another day. The pixel art gods have gifted me with a B grade B. It might be a good time to mention that my wife is a junior school art teacher, which may or may not be inflating the scores. But who am I to question the objective authority of a trained professional? Either way, little talent tantrum included, my day has ran out. I've been humbled by bees and my own incompetence. So I'm just gonna cross my fingers and come back tomorrow and hope that sleep gives me a little dose of that blind optimism that I came into this whole challenge with. Friday, day 4. Today is the final day. Today I see if I can actually make art. I'm staring at the potential future of my game in the face and I'm nervous. Honestly. Yesterday didn't give me all the confidence I needed, but it's probably just the nature of trying to learn something so complex so fast. You'll hit roadblocks that don't feel possible to overcome, like tiny little bee arms. You might not run into issues with tiny little bee arms, but I'd be careful, mindful of their little arms. But you've just got to adapt, learn a new technique, or be lightly influenced into a different direction that is within your capabilities. And honestly, that's why I set out to create a game with no experience in the first place. I want to learn new stuff, and trial by fire is a great way to do it. Setting arbitrary time limits is just a way to control the scope of any given skill acquisition, because yeah, I will continue to learn more pixel art skills, but I've also got a whole bunch of other stuff I've got to learn. And quick, intense bouts of focus and dedication with fixed end goals may be insanely ADHD coded, but it works for me, or at least I hope it does. Because today's the final exam, the submission piece. This is really what it's all been about. Whatever I make today is where I will mentally position myself in terms of pixel art skill level, while I get on with the other skills I need to make this game a reality. My confidence has been knocked around, and yeah, I'm hoping for a good grade. But honestly, the most I'm really looking for is to just not disappoint myself. I just want to make something I'm proud of. So here it goes. Okay. There's no shot I'm going to be able to pull perfection out of my butt here, so I'm going to make a quick, janky collage reference image in Photoshop. It's not supposed to look good. It's a bit of a convoluted, chaotic mess, but just like my brain, it does the job, in theory. Like I can look at it and know what I'm supposed to do next when I'm making my pixel art. Making? Creating? Am I allowed to say painting? Is it drawing? What's the verb? Anyway, here it is, and now I'm ready to get started with my shapes. I'll fill all those in and get a tiny bit distracted with the lantern before getting stuck into my first challenge of the day, the wood texture. Now, the good news is, I have some experience with wood texture. Remember that? It's nice. The bad news is, there is a lot of wood. And I'm also starting to see a fundamental issue with this whole design, but it hasn't completely dawned on me yet. That will come. Either way, I spend entirely too long on this wood texture. I don't want it to be a repeating pattern. Gotta fix that. Add some variety. Cool. It's looking a little flat. I'll just use one of my new favorite things ever, the shading brush, to add some level of gradient to create like a shadow effect from the bar bench. And hey, that's some pretty freaking sweet looking wood, if I say so myself. Who knows how the rest of the image will turn out? I mean, I still have to design a whole dang bartender. But for now, man, that's some nice wood. I should probably stop talking about wood. Next, I worked on this screen door thing. Good enough. I don't know what happened here. I gave some texture to these shelves and then just decided, nah, no texture for the shelves. Don't ask, it was a vibe thing. I was starting to feel like the whole thing was just becoming one big wood texture, and I'm gonna add details here to sit on the shelves anyway, so I'll just get started with the roof. And when I say, I spent the next hour just fumbling, I mean, dang, how hard can a tiled roof be, right? Apparently pretty freaking hard, because I tried so many different approaches and just none of them felt right. And this is one of those perfect examples of the fact that you can only really learn so much in 4 days on a brand new skill, because I just, no matter what I tried, did not have the ability to pull off this tiled roof. So I pivoted slightly to something I could actually do. This is like the equivalent of always drawing characters with their hands behind their backs, because AI is not the only thing that sucks at drawing hands. And that's some more foreshadowing for you. Just drawing hands, not the AI. What I'm saying is, I ditched the idea of the tiled roof, and I just went for, I don't know, whatever this is. It's not as pretty or ornate, but it's a roof and that's all I need it to be. No one, other than everyone now, will know what it was ever supposed to be. Then I went ahead and did the counter noden, the curtainy thing. I debated putting some text on it, but decided in the end to not disappoint myself any further. And instead I just moved on to the background, which actually turned out kind of cool. Now my plan is to blur it later to add some depth of field and to give a bit more of a 3D pop. So the details don't have to be perfect. There's the blur. Some of it's a bit sketchy, but I've got a plan to cover that up later. Now I feel like it's the time to start working on the details, because I'm looking at what I have and it doesn't look super impressive, but I also feel like there's not really any foundational work left, ignoring the bartender. But that means I gotta get stuck into the details. I attempted to keep the cabinet details varied so it didn't look like a repeating pattern. Then I started working on these hanging glasses. The shape is maybe questionable, but I'm happy enough with it, so I duplicate it and call it done. Chairs? Make one. Copy paste. The lantern. Yeah, so now we get to watch my multiple attempts at the lantern and, oh, okay. I paused the recording to grab a snack and forgot to hit record again for the time lapse. You didn't miss much. It's a bit of fumbling, and it's just that this is what I ended up with. Honestly, I don't know if it's all that great, but it's passable in my eyes. So now I should start work on the bottles and yakitori grill, and damn it, I did it again. Forgot to record this part. I'm honestly surprised that didn't happen more often. I think that's probably the last time. But we missed making a few more bottles. I also moved the bottles to the other side because the whiskey colors weren't really working against the screen door. I don't know, I'm figuring all this out as we go, okay? And unfortunately, the time has come. It is now or never. Other than some finishing touches to tie this whole thing together, which is honestly the most satisfying part, so I'll do that last. I gotta get to work on this bartender. It's not gonna be a human. It's gonna be a bird. I mean, there'll be a bunch of different bartender characters in the actual game, but today I picked a blue jay. Not because they are ever found in Japan. In fact, they're native to North America, but instead because they look cool. Very distinctive. Like I said, there'll be a bunch of different bartender characters. Not all of them will be geographically lore accurate, and maybe I should have picked one that is, for the first ever hero shot. But I'll be honest, I didn't really put any more thought into it other than it looks cool. And holy moly, this arm I hate it. I can't get it to look right. And what I ended up with is probably barely passable, but I've already spent over 7 hours on this pixel art. And it's like Interstellar over here, because 10 minutes of pixel art time is like an hour in real life, so I can't afford to commit any more time to this poopy doo-doo hand. So let's finish up this blue jay and get on to the finishing touches. A little toilet sign, because this izakaya just happens to not yet be overrun by loud toilet-needing tourists. So we get a regular old sign instead of an old lady guiding you to an unassuming back alley door and handing you the giant spoon, which is honestly part of the charm, and not a euphemism if you don't know what I'm talking about. A little tree over here. Could have been a cherry blossom in hindsight, but didn't Joe Mama ever tell you not to stare at people's hinds? Add some chips to the roof and bada bing bada boom. There we have it. My first ever full pixel art scene. And now there's only one thing left to do, which is to get my final grade. And honestly, there's mistakes here and there. There were pivots, definite areas I could improve, but I'm actually just so happy with what I managed to achieve. Like I said, I had faith in myself, but I didn't actually expect to be able to pull off something that looks like this, especially after only 3 days of practice. It might actually be too good, and I'm not being facetious. This is impossible. I don't care how much better I get, how much faster I get at it, this will still take too long for me to realistically be able to make a bunch of them for the game. Meaning the biggest takeaway I got from this specific art piece is to drop the resolution of the canvas size for the actual in-game assets. We don't need this much detail. And while I love how it looks, it honestly feels like overkill compared to what I had in my mind for the game. But that's for the game. For the sake of the video and the challenge, I couldn't be happier. And regardless of what grade I get, it's still a win for me, because more than the skill it taught me, the most valuable thing I've learned is that it's actually even possible. I've never considered myself much of a traditional artist. I've never been good at drawing or painting, and I've struggled through a little bit of digital art in university, but I think it's all too easy to self-identify with these ideas that you have of yourself, things that you are and things that you aren't. Even now, sitting in front of this artwork, I would absolutely not call myself a pixel artist, because there's still so much I can't do. There's still so much for me to learn, but I've proven to myself that that doesn't mean I can't make pixel art or learn to code or maybe even develop an entire game, because without ever trying, you can't ever surprise yourself. I'm surprised by what I made, which means that just given a bit of practice, I was always capable of more than I believed. And that's exciting, because who knows what else you're capable of? The only thing to do is try. And for what it's worth, my wife gave me an A and said, "I love it. I want to go there. Let's go."